Welcome back to my CD collection, part 2. I'd like to thank everybody for the fantastic support that I received in the comment section of the first video. It did rather well, so I'm making another part. I think it should be a good experience. A lot of us are dealing with the coronavirus pandemic a little bit differently than others. Personally, I decided to turn my camera on and talk about my CD collection because I have completely ran out of ideas. Today, we have a lot of shit to get through in letter B. To ease the pain a little bit, I have prepared myself a nice moose head, and I'm gonna open it with my Beyond Creation bottle opener. Isn't that exciting? Alright, without further ado, let's get to the first release. To start us off, we have a band from Poland that is kind of obscure, and I hope that's a good thing because some of you might want to check it out. Backbone with Omega Wave. This is a very interesting project from Poland. I couldn't tell you what city exactly, but it is sort of a project that involves a lot of sludge, some doom, but it's done in a kind of experimental way. Yeah, this is an EP they released back in a few years ago, I think. Pretty good. Moving on from that, we have some punk rock, finally, and I am proud to introduce my punk rock collection with Bad Religion. This is their album, No Control. I know a lot of people are going to criticize me, Nicodem. Why don't you have the classic albums from Bad Religion? I just didn't get around to it. I actually got this album pretty early on in my CD collecting ventures, and it has served me pretty well since then. It's a great record. It's got a lot of speed. But it has that fuck you punk rock attitude, which I really like in punk in general. Yeah, a lot of tracks on here are really good. No Control, Sometimes I Feel Like, Automatic Man has a really cool really cool chorus. Yeah, Bad Religion. Then we have another band from Poland that I am quite fond of, and I'm talking about Banisher with Onric Delusions. This is a record that is absolutely fucking devastating. If your poor soul decides to look them up on Metallum, you will find that they are listed as experimental brutal death metal. No. Get the fuck out of here. There's nothing experimental about this, okay? That website is faulty. This is classic bare bones brutal death metal. It has some really cool technical things about it. The playing style is different. I wouldn't call it experimental, but it is different. Yeah, this is just a great example of some really cool Polish death metal, and I'm a very big fan of this band, and I really want to own more of their stuff because they're really good. Now we have a release from Hell's Headbangers, which I am very proud to own. We have Bat with Wings of Chains. This is a speed metal band that I really just fell in love with the moment I heard their sound. It's a dirty, raw, just explosion of just like badass riffs and yeah, it's so fucking dirty. This is basically motorbike music. Fuck Pantera. Bat is where you gotta be at. Now we have something that's somewhat more local. These guys hail from London, Ontario, Canada, and I'm extremely proud to own these two albums because they're just absolutely incredible. Once again, they come from CDN Records, and I'm a big fan of that label because they have a lot of cool brutal death metal on there, but sometimes they come through with something that's a little bit different from their usual catalog, and Battlesoul is the example. This is their album Tir na Nog. Am I saying that right? Tir na Nog. I don't know. You brought this on yourself, Battlesoul. This is an interesting combination of, I don't even know how to say it. I guess you could say it's melodic death metal, but it has that Heaven Shall Burn kind of vibe for me. But it's done in a more focused way where there's no metalcore elements at all. So it's like if you took Heaven Shall Burn, cut out the metalcore, and then added some like folk instrumentation and epic metal stuff. And then you got Battlesoul. If you want to do like a badass gym workout or do something very physically excruciating, Battlesoul is a great soundtrack for that. But one of the best follow-ups of all time, and I think one of my favorite albums in my collection, one I always come back to, is Sunward and Starward by Battlesoul. This is their latest album. And I'm kind of worried, to be honest, because I'm not sure if they can get better than this. I mean, this is kind of hard to top. This album features some of the most incredible songwriting I've ever heard. The first 2 tracks just fucking launch you right into experience. All I Understand and Bearing the World have crushing riffs. And the song structure is that it doesn't tease you, it doesn't give you too much, because they save the really dope moments for like, you know, specific parts of the song. Then they have intermissions, and then, you know, it goes into the next part. Like, it's just very well structured, but the songs themselves are just such fucking like epic metal anthems. They're seriously so fucking good. The production is beefed up as well. It's got more of a polish to it, which I think serves them well. The only gripe I really have with Battlesoul is people calling these guys folk metal in any sort of way. This is not fucking folk metal. If you want some folk metal, listen to Fintroll or Suidaka or something like that, okay? This is not folk metal. Kind of a weird change of pace, because our next album is from a band that a lot of you slammy deathcore people might be familiar with, and that is Begging for Incest with Awaiting the Fist. Now, personally, I wanted to get the original version of this album because I think the production is just more my thing. But Rising Nemesis decided to re-release, redo, and revamp this record. It's basically that deathcore slam that you heard from like a lot of bands in like the MySpace days. And Begging for Incest came out of the woodworks with this EP and shocked the world. It was vulgar, misogynistic, offensive, and fucking great. Personally, musically, this isn't something that like wowed me, but if you're looking for some slam just to bang your head to and, you know, ooga booga somebody, then honestly I think this is a good soundtrack for that. I love the song titles, once again. Postmortem Facefuck, Cunt Puncher, Crushed Testicles Smeared with Excrements, Typical Sunday Night. Some of these I don't even know. A Severed Head, A Better Blowjob. I can't quite attest to that. No idea. More Polska music! More technical Polish death metal. We have Beheading Machine with their album, oh my god, I can't even pronounce this. Narco-Biological Upgrade. I guess that means this man joined the Cali cartel, and this is what happened to him. See? He became so fucked up he ended up on a Polish death metal album cover.
Drugs are bad. You shouldn't do drugs.
This is a really cool technical death metal album. It's got that style that I wouldn't really call even like technical death metal, because there's a lot of different ways you can perceive technical death metal. There's death metal that's just very, you know, weird in its time signatures and it's all over the place. There's technical death metal that just has a lot of experimentation. Then there's stuff like this that's more bare bones death metal, but it still has a lot of, you know, switch ups in the grooves and pacing. I would say this is comparable to like Decapitated on maybe like Nihility, or what's a different album I'm thinking of? Yeah, I can't think of it. Next up, more Polish music. I don't know what it is about these Polish albums just stacking up next to each other, but we have some classic Behemoth here. This is Storming Over the Baltic. It's a decent album. I honestly am not a huge fan of early Behemoth, and it's got nothing to do with black metal tropes or anything like that. It's just kind of like, I really didn't like their sound back in the day. I think Grom was a cool album, but this first one was just a rough start for Behemoth. What really ruins it for me is the fact that it's kind of boring. It's a little bit too repetitive, and there's not a lot of like variation going on in this first Behemoth album. But I do want to make that up to you because I also have The Satanist in my collection. I mentioned The Satanist in the previous video, and for good reasons, because this album took the metal world by fucking storm. I'm not talking about Metal Storm. No, this album took the world by storm when it came out, and Loudwire even called it its favorite album of the whole decade. Now, what do I think of this? As a fellow Polish man and fan of Behemoth, I can say that this album is extremely overrated. The record has an atmosphere that was actually new at the time, you know, it really was. But I think since this album came out, we really have had a lot of variations within metal and different kinds of sounds based on what Behemoth has been doing. Now, could I call this like a milestone in extreme metal music? For sure, because they inspired a lot of different bands to continue on forward. But personally speaking, I think that this album isn't perfect. It really isn't. Some of these tracks feel like filler. They're really not that interesting. Then there's other tracks like O Father, Saint or Son that are grandiose, epic, and beautiful. So, I don't know, it's a mixed bag for me. Next up, we have a band from Austria that I am very, very, very fond of and were very influential for myself in discovering the extreme metal darkness that exists. And of course, I'm talking about Belphegor. This is their first album, Walpurgis Rites, a album that I think is a little bit of a mess, but it's still an enjoyable release, despite the fact. I think that they kind of just couldn't really decide on what they wanted to do with this record. There's black metal, there's death metal, but instead of it being a black and death metal fusion, they kind of switch between the styles within different songs, or even the songs themselves have moments that are either death metal or black metal. Still, I can't shit on it because the songs are great. My favorite would have to be... there's so many different options. The Cross is Made of Bone. That's the best one. And of course, after that, we have Conjuring the Dead. Now, a lot of people are split on this album. They're saying that it's not Belphegor, it's not what the sound is all about. I would have to disagree because I think Belphegor finally decided to just go, okay, we've been doing a lot of death metal shit in combination with black metal. We have to make up our minds. Well, I don't know. What should we do? I don't know. Let's just make a death metal album. And that's exactly what they did. And they created Conjuring the Dead, which is a great death metal record. Gas Mask, Terror, The Eyes, Flesh, Bones, and Blood. A lot of bones in their titles, I noticed. This is a cool record. It's got a lot of pummeling grooves in it, but it still has that dark atmosphere that Belphegor is known for, so I think it's a great release. I really didn't hate it. Not the best in their catalog, but still not to be dismissed. And their latest incantation of doom comes in the form of this release here, Totem Ritual. Holy fuck, is this album a masterpiece. Totem Ritual takes everything that Belphegor has been doing up to this point and fused it together in this fucking masterpiece. It's so good. They basically took black and death metal, and instead of switching between the genres, they finally found a way to blend those together in a fusion that is so perfect. This album is extremely overwhelming, and it has an atmosphere that just, it's like a wave coming down on you. The black metal elements are there, the death metal elements are there, but it's also just like disturbing. There's so much in this album that's just so like unsettling when you're listening to it. It's really not like a chilled out drive in the car and you pop this in and you're like, oh cool, some Belphegor. No. This is like when you're pissed off and like you have dark thoughts, like really dark thoughts. Now we have another record that was extremely influential for me, and this actually I want to give a big shout out to Mr. Infidel Amsterdam. I doubt he's ever going to watch this, but this guy was a huge inspiration for a lot of metal YouTube that we see today in terms of reviewing music and promoting underground stuff. He has one of the most insane collections I've ever seen, and he was making this video about some kind of label, I forget what it was, but they were pressing a lot of vinyls from really good albums, and one of the ones he mentioned was Benighted with Icon, and that's this record right here. No doubt in my mind, if you have not listened to this album, you are seriously missing out, and you have to. It is such a great example of what I would call controlled chaos, because their playing style is very sporadic and all over the place, but it still fits together in this beautiful concoction. I think that the grooves on this album are also incredible. The way they managed to combine headbanging riffs with complete fucking madness, blast beats and riffs that just go off in a frenzy in every direction. It's perfect. I would give this a 10 out of 10. This is one of my favorite albums of all time. Some tracks to recommend would definitely be the first three, besides the intro, Slut, Grindwit, and Saw It All. We also have Smile Then Bleed, which is really cool, Human Circles, The Underneath, Blindfolded Centuries. All the tracks on here are good. Of course, they followed up with more music, and I have their latest release, or their latest full length at least, Necrobreed. This is featuring a different vocalist. The epic shrieking highs that we got from Icon aren't quite there anymore, and it does sound a little bit different, which is why I would place Icon above Necrobreed, but still Necrobreed is a fantastic release. It's got a beefed up production, it's way faster. I would say this album's more focused on just delivering straight up like death metal and grindcore, so yeah, fantastic shit. Okay, moving forward from that, we have a EP from a band that is no longer active. As far as I remember, they are from Edmonton, Alberta, and they have only one release under their belt, an EP called Awaken. This is Bestir with that release. This is a combination of sludge, doom metal, but there's also grindcore elements somehow. Like, it manages to be extremely slow and chunky, and then it throws you into this like grind frenzy, and you're like, what the fuck is even happening? But yeah, I think this album utilizes samples very, very well, like on the opening track, I think. The Lies That Bind. The Bewildered Herd is also a very cool song. So yeah, and funny story. So I actually have a story to tell with this EP. I posted this on my Facebook already, but I'm going to mention it here as well. So, like I mentioned, CJAM Radio has a bin where you can take discarded CDs from, and I stumbled upon a specific album, if I can just find it here. I stumbled upon this right here. This is Chilled. This is an EP that they have called Thin the Herd, Fail to Learn. And it honestly, I kind of forgot about it. I have a separate shelf for all my CJAM things, and I just like put them there whenever I feel like it. I listen to it. This fucking thing sat on my shelf for like half a year, and then I realized, hey, you know what? I should probably check it out. Maybe it's good. It sounded kind of familiar, and I was wondering, I should do some digging. And yeah, sure enough, these are the same guys. Now, okay, maybe I should backtrack. I'm not sure if these are the exact same members, but essentially, Bestir died and Chilled was born. And I think that was just a great realization. I know it sounds like a lame story, but just let me have my moment, okay? I made a discovery. So yeah, Chilled is great, better production, and I think that the songwriting improved as well, so we can knock that off the list right away. Alright, here's another group that I'm very fond of and very proud to own. These guys blessed us with their presence not that long ago. They played a show here in Windsor, and you know, it might not seem like a big deal, but honestly, a band like this coming to Windsor, especially to Dominion House, which can only hold about, I don't know, maybe like max 200 people, is kind of incredible. Tyson Blast, Black Market Booking, put together a show that surprised all of Windsor's metal scene, and I cannot congratulate him more for accomplishing what he did. And this show was a great addition to the overall Windsor metal experience. And I, of course, talking about Beyond Creation, one of Canada's jewels of metal. These guys are very innovative and very creative. They have a sound that I can only describe as being progressive and technical at the same time. They have gotten increasingly more and more experimental with their music. So this first album here, The Aura, is their first go at it. It's still a great record, you know, like I think it holds up today. I think it focuses more on like the brutal side and catchy riffs and things like that, and they weren't quite veering off into the experimental territory quite yet. I have their second album here, Earthborn Evolution, which really put them on the map as far as I'm aware. But I am just so sad with this. I got this CD from the Seasons of Mist. I bought it from them, and the fucking cocksuckers. Look at this. Look at this. Do you see this? Look at this. What the fuck is this? Some jackass put a sticker that's like literally that big, and I just couldn't peel it off. It's impossible. It was like super glued onto there, and now my jewel case is ruined forever. I hate these people. They need to die. But yeah, Earthborn Evolution has some great songs. The title track, Earthborn Evolution, is really, really catchy, which is something that a lot of technical progressive bands aren't able to do. Make something catchy that also isn't like, you know, wanky and kind of, you know, but they have a very focused sound. They have managed to amass a large group of supporters, including myself, so I'm just very, very proud to own this in my collection. Now, I picked up Aura and their latest album at the show in Windsor, and I managed to snag this cool box set of it. This is Algorithm by Beyond Creation, another fantastic release. This is their third album, and when you open it up, no, I'm not doing that Legend of Zelda shit again. That was, I gotta keep it fresh, you know? Yeah, this is the real cover art here, and all I can say is, wow. Probably one of the most innovative extreme metal albums to ever come out up to this point. I think just Beyond Creation is a great example of a band showcasing the capabilities of where the genre is going, and I think they'll be remembered for the rest of time for how creative and just fucking awesome they are. So yeah, Algorithm. More Polish music, but this time some old school rock and roll, back in the day when, you know, communism was just all over Poland and people were subjugated to one of the worst systems of all time. There was a lot of bands coming out that were playing just tons of really cool rebellious rock music. Brigada Kryzys is one of my favorite, but this is an album that has kind of an interesting twist on it. Big Tits. For those who don't speak Polish, you know, you're probably not going to understand anything from this, but this is basically just a politically charged rock album. It's pretty interesting. It's got a good sense of humor, I might add. Not to mention, Big Tits means big tit. What do you expect? Then we have a classic from my angsty teenage days, and this was actually the first band that I ever saw live at Rock in the Park 2015. There was Killswitch Engage, Rise Against played, but the headliner was no other than Billy motherfucking Talent. Yeah, that's right. Billy Talent with hits. I know I'm a absolute poser because I don't have the full-length albums, but for me, I just don't need anything else. I mean, I haven't really ventured off into the other Billy Talent records because every song that I love is on here, and yeah, there's just some really good teenage memories. Let's keep trudging on with a release via Severed Records, and they're gonna pop up more than once in this series. We have Birth Through Gore with Reign of Depravity. This is a really fucking insane, brutal death metal album. It's just pummeling. It's relentless. It keeps on onslaughting your brain cells. It's got a lot of sick grooves and blast beats, and yeah, I just can't really say anything else. It's fucking on. Now we have another project that I'm very fond of, and this is the Black Dahlia Murder with their album Nocturnal. This is one of their pretty well-known albums. I mean, you know, you got What a Horrible Night to Have a Curse on here, as well as many other songs that took the nation by storm. Black Dahlia Murder is a prolific melodic death metal titan, and not even just beyond being a melodic death metal band. I think they've surpassed that label, that genre description. If they've kind of been creating stuff that's a little bit more than people ever expected. But still, Nocturnal is a classic album. We also have Abyssal. This is a really fucking catchy album, and it's so brutal. I mean, this is one of those records that, like, I looked at the cover and I was like, what? Like, this is Black Dahlia Murder? Like, this is so brutal. This album is quite literally just an onslaught, and you have to love this artwork. Look at this. Look how cool that is. Like, look at all this shit. Isn't that so badass? I mean, come on, bro. But yeah, this is a classic release for myself. And we have Nightbringers, which is also really, really, really cool. Don't get me wrong, I like something that's chaotic, I like something that's very, very technical, but I think that they got a little bit carried away on a few songs here. Just some of the albums, some of the tracks are a little bit too much. There's just way too much going on, and it kind of takes me out of it, but overall, great CD. Then we have the debut release from another band from Windsor, and if you look back in the very early catalog of the Angelus Mortem Facebook page, you can see we have a music video for this band over here, Blackdogmoon. Now you're probably thinking, Nick, why are you picking up dollar store metal albums for no reason? That's a good question. I actually worked with the drummer, Corey, at a place called Riviera. You may know Riviera Spaghetti House on Wyandotte. But yeah, Blackdogmoon, I don't really know what to say. It's kind of like Motorhead combined with Metallica. It's pretty repetitive, and honestly, I don't like this album. I haven't even really listened to it all the way through, but it holds some good memories for me, so that's why I keep it in my collection. Sorry, guys. Okay, this is a weird one. I don't really know how to describe this. This is a Chinese black metal project, and there really isn't a way for me to tell you what it's even called. As far as I could tell, the translation is Black Freak, but I'm not really sure if that's the accurate title. Yeah, there's just so many questions here. I mean, like, what the fuck is even happening here? What is this? And the album title is Kokokyu, and then we have that. I don't really know what that is. The only thing I can tell you is two things. This took 3 months to get to my house from China. God hail the postal service. And the second thing is that this is just some of the most depraved, intense, and just distorted, creepy, raw black metal I've ever heard. It has 8 tracks on it, and each of them is as fucked up as the other. This isn't something I play very often, but it just wowed me the first time I heard it, and I thought to myself, like, man, you know what? I think I need to, like, buy this because it's kind of a gem. So yeah, if you want to check out Black Freak, I really don't have a way for you to really check this out, but... Alright, let's finish. We're getting close to the end here. We got Black Label Society, and this is one of my favorite albums from them, The Blessed Hellride. This album has everything you'd want. It's got kick-ass groove metal, it's very catchy, it's very much just a fantastic release altogether. I will say that, you know, Zakk Wylde is one of those figures in heavy metal that you just cannot ever criticize because people are just gonna jump on your dick and fucking break it in half. Honestly, I think his constant pinch harmonic shit is a little bit annoying. He overdoes it a lot, in my opinion. I know that's his signature, but it's really grating after some time. But it doesn't appear that often on this album, which I do appreciate. Stoned and Drunk, Doomsday Jesus is a great song. Stillborn is great, featuring Ozzy Osbourne. Moving on, we have another release from Black Label Society, Catacombs of the Black Vatican. It's not a terrible album. I personally only listened to this one time, and I can't really remember a lot from this record. I do remember liking it, but yeah, this is just one of those albums that I actually wrote down on my want list without really listening to it beforehand, so that's my mistake. Okay, and we are going to cut off this episode right here. I have one more release for you guys, and then moving forward is going to be part 2 of Letter B, just because there's so much to talk about and I don't want to drag this video out forever, like, you know, last time. But we are ending on a high note here, and we have Black fucking Kreek, also from Windsor, and this is their debut and only album, Power of Reality. This is, how do I describe it? It has a similar sound to something like Chimera maybe, or Lamb of God. They combine groove metal, thrash metal, and alternative metal into this nice little fusion. It's a kick-ass release, I have to say. I think the best thing I can say about it is the mix, and of course that is credited to Mr. Glenn Fricker, who is originally from Windsor, and he produced a lot of he mixed a lot of Windsor's finest albums. If you manage to snag this somewhere, I highly recommend it. It's a Windsor gem, and I picked this up at Dr. Disc for $10. I was really lucky to find it because I was trying to find it for a long time and I couldn't find it anywhere. I think Black Kreek has a sound that is pretty punchy. I can imagine these guys were pretty good live back in the day, but honestly, right now they're not around anymore. This album came out in, oh fuck, 2006, so this is like really old. The only thing I can say about the record that I don't like is the fact that the vocals are a little cringy. There's a lot of cliche lyrics about never giving up and the darkness surrounds me and I walk this earth. It's pretty much like the Godsmack textbook type shit. But yeah, Black Kreek's pretty good. And that is all I have for you today. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'm gonna have part 2 out next week. stay safe, stay home, don't be dumb, and I'll see you guys on the flip side.